Make a choice. Don't eat from it and live, or eat from it and die. It's your choice. So Adam said, well, that's a pretty simple choice to make. Let's not eat from it and live. Eve said, God wants us to eat from it. He's hoping we eat from it. And Adam said, how do you know that? She said, because our job is in the lowest world, and this is not the lowest world. There's a world in which people die. A world of mortality. That's the lowest world, and that's where our job is. He wants us to eat from the tree and go into the world of mortality. Adam said, God put us here. Can't be a mistake. So if he puts us here, he must want us here. And Eve said, no, it's not the way it works. God takes you to where your job is, but you have to volunteer to cross that border. God will take you to the threshold, but whether you enter that door or not is up to you. He wants us to volunteer. Adam said, makes a lot of sense. And they ate from the tree. Now God comes to Adam and says, you ate from the tree I told you not to eat from. Naturally, we assume that God is shouting. He's angry and he's about to smite somebody. That may be one interpretation, but not necessarily. God is not angry. God is marveling. How did you know? I told you not to eat from it, but you understood that I was hoping you would? How did you know that? Being a new, fresh, pure, innocent soul, Adam said, I didn't know. She knew. So God says to Eve, how did you know? She said, what the snake told me sounded like that's where our job would be. The snake said, when you eat from that tree, you will be like God. You will know good and evil. Well, good and evil, that needs fixing. So God said, that's great. That's exactly what I meant by it's not good for man to be alone, because Adam would not have eaten from the tree. So then God says, let me tell you more about this world that you're going down to. It's a mortal world. It also has pain, struggle, disappointment. It's an uphill battle. It's the lowest world. Are you sure you want to try to fix it? And they said, yes. If that's what you need done, that's what we will do. That's the story of Adam and Eve. Quite different from the conventional understanding. God was not angry. They were not punished because they never committed a sin. Now we refer to that as the sin of the tree of knowledge. But the word that we use in Hebrew is not really translated as sin. There are other words for sin. The word chet, which is how we describe the action in the Garden of Eden, the word chet doesn't mean sin. The word chet means a step down, demoted. They took a giant step down, but there was no violation. There was no sin. There was nothing malicious. There was nothing lustful. It was innocent and it was correct. But it was a step down. In fact, when God said, don't eat from that tree, the day you eat from it, you'll die, He wanted them to eat from the tree. Then why did He say don't? Well, to give them a choice. But God can't say a falsehood. When God said, don't eat from the tree, it meant, I don't want you to eat from the tree. But he did want them to eat from the tree. Here's what you really, really need to know. God said, don't eat from the tree. Because you're going to die. Your children are going to be imperfect. They won't know me. I don't want this to happen. But I'm hoping you do it. Because otherwise, the vast eternal plan will never be fulfilled. So God was saying, I don't want you to do this, but I need you to do this. Like a king sending his army off to war. If he's a good king, he doesn't want to. He hates it. But has to happen. So when God said, don't eat from the tree, he meant, I really don't want this to happen, but I hope you eat from the tree because it has to happen. What does this tell us about God? He's not sitting up there in heaven, unaffected, invulnerable, untouched by anything that happens to us, and he just watches us to see when he should smite us. That's not God. God made an investment in creation. Like a man getting married. He has to make some sacrifices. He has to give up a lot of stuff. But how else is he going to have a soulmate? So God sacrifices, does things against his own will, goes out of his comfort zone in order to have this creation, which is a relationship. And that's why everything we do is so important to him. So it touches him, it affects him, gives him pleasure, gives him pain. You say, how can God have pleasure? How can God have pain? Yeah, not the way we do. Our pleasure is feeble and our pain is pathetic. His pain is infinite and his pleasure is eternal. Of course, he's more than us, not less, but it's worth it. If we do this, it will be worth it. And that was Eve's wisdom. She understood this. She heard God. Adam was so impressed with God that he didn't hear. He didn't hear it. How is it that she understood that they were not in the lowest world and they had to volunteer? And he missed it. He missed it because he was so overwhelmed by God's greatness that he didn't hear God's vulnerability. She heard it. And thanks to her, we are busy all these years elevating the world, fixing the world, fighting the injustices, setting things right to the best of our ability. And she was confident that her children will be able to do this. It's a huge compliment. So you see how a story can be viewed on a simple level, on a deeper level, on a profound level. Every story in the Torah is that way. If a story sounds too conventional, too plain, too ordinary, banal, you're not understanding it. We don't need God to come down to Mount Sinai to teach us things that even Dr. Phil could tell us. It's got to be more to a story in the Torah than conventional wisdom. So, dig deep. You'll find magnificence.